Yes, these are very, very difficult and dark moments we speak in. Whether it's the renewal of the genocide after a small pause in Gaza, the seeds of ethnic cleansing are already taking or being planted in the West Bank, with more than 40,000 people already displaced in the West Bank, and the sense of despair. Actually, more than despair, it's feeling powerless, that we cannot stop anything. I was thinking what to share, and many people reached out. Are you going to say something now after the ceasefire? And honestly, I thought of maybe finding one of my videos from November of 2023 and sharing it. I mean, what more do we need to say for the people, for the world, to humanize the people of Gaza? Speaking about steadfastness, sumud, in the midst of this is a very difficult topic. I wonder if we're guilty as pastors of romanticizing, and I agree with Lama, steadfastness or even hope. And I'm guilty of preaching hope. I preach it from faith, but sometimes, and many times, in times like this, faith is tested because it's so counter to reality. Are we leading people into delusion when we're speaking about hope as Christians in the midst of a genocide, a very, very brutal genocide? I'd rather talk about survival and maybe steadfastness. Sumud is more appropriate. Are we going to survive? I hope we survive this current and dark moment. Speaking of sumud, I would like to steadfastness. Sumud is the Arabic word for steadfastness, if you're not aware. Speaking about steadfastness or sumud, I would like to give two quick points. To me, steadfastness is refusing to give in. It's refusing to give in. And more directly, as Christians, I would say, it's refusing to conform and bow to the ways of empire. Empires crush. Empires tell us that might is right. If Herod wants to own a territory, he just declares it. And this is the kind of world we live in today, in which rulers say, we want to own another territory and ethnically cleanse 2 million people. This is the kind of moment we live in. Are we going to bow? And silence is bowing. If we're not speaking up and challenging and resisting, it's bowing. I am appalled. I'm not joking. I am appalled by the response of the global church to the recent developments in the last 2 months, in which we have a new era being ushered in our humanity, in which international law is completely ignored and trespassed, publicly crushed. Human rights no longer matter. And the global church is silent. We have rulers say we want to own other territory and boast about, as I said, the ethnic cleansing of others. Maybe it was our fault to allow the Western world to place itself at the top of the moral hierarchy of the world and dictate to us what human rights are and what the international law is. We allowed the United States and Europe, with their history of whether it's the Holocaust or Vietnam or Algeria or Libya or Guatemala or the Second Iraqi War, to place themselves on the hierarchy of moral credibility of the world and tell us what's right and wrong. And now we're paying the price. And today, when South Africa leads the way in calling out what Israel is committing as a genocide, based on the criteria put to us by the Western world, let's be clear, South Africa did not create the criteria. And now it's being dismissed and called as radicals. I am appalled by the silence because it's telling me that people are afraid. People are afraid of being canceled, challenged. They're afraid of losing funds, losing their jobs. And I want us to consider the alternative. And by the way, this is much, much bigger than Palestine. This is no longer about Palestine, believe me. This is about our collective humanity. The alternative is to surrender to the rule of might is right. Today, they will own, and I'm using their words, Gaza. They will declare there is no occupation, it's all Judea and Samaria. Tomorrow, they will do it in other contexts. This is a time when we need to unite. We need to be defiant and say, no, we will not bow to the ways of the empire. And by the way, if we needed more, as if clues to what's happening, I encourage you to go and watch the video shared by Trump himself about his vision of turning Gaza into Riviera of the Middle East or whatever, in which there is literally, and I'm not joking, go and see it, an image of a golden statue of Trump. And I'm asking myself, you know, nobody's going to talk about this. So if we talk about steadfastness, it's not just about Palestinians resisting a settler colonial entity in Palestine today. This is about the global world. This is a collective. This is about all of us. We either say yes or no to the ways of empire. It is truly a kairos moment, a critical moment in our history as humanity. For us as Palestinians, steadfastness or sumud is not an option. We don't have any other choice. I mean, we're not going to pack and leave. You've seen the people of Gaza and their response, and you can hear what's happening in the West Bank. We are as defiant as ever. We're not leaving. But we need the support of the global church, and we need the support of our humanity, you know, fellow humans. We are resisting in different means. As Palestinian Christians, we insist on creative nonviolent resistance. That's who we are. But more than ever, we're calling the world, and this is what Lama said, for solidarity, and I think the bishop as well. But it's precisely costly solidarity. I think solidarity by definition is so costly. I don't think there is any other solidarity. And I'm troubled that many in the Western world continue to choose convenience over solidarity. We cannot do it alone, but we cannot do it without your courage and action. And I'm asking myself, can we rely on the global church in this very difficult and critical moment? The same global church that refused to call Israeli actions as apartheid before the genocide, despite the mounting evidence, and the same global church that still has not called Israel's actions as a genocide, despite all the proof and all the testimonies and reports. Can we rely on a church that lacks the courage to call things for what they are and speak truth to power? I'm asking myself. I'm still traumatized by my experience in the World Council of Churches when we just wanted a discussion on the issue of apartheid, and we were opposed, resisted. And I'm still traumatized by the silence and apathy of so many global leaders, and who were quick enough to condemn Hamas on October 7th, yet still are silent and have not called Israel's actions as genocide, again, despite all the mounting evidence. Can we rely on the global church if it continues to insist on using the language of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? There is no conflict. There was no conflict in South Africa between the blacks and the whites. There was apartheid, there was oppression, there was colonialism. They didn't need mediation. They needed the end of apartheid. They didn't call for the church to pray for peace. They said, boycott, sanction until apartheid is over. So can I hope? Can we really find hope in the global church in a time when we're not willing to resist the empire of today and confront to its language of peace and reconciliation and human rights and international law, and not come together as humanity and as a church? That's my first point. Steadfastness is saying no to empire. And my second point is that resilience, steadfastness, sumud, is insisting against all odds to have faith in God. Insisting against all odds to have faith in God. In my book that will come out, that has just come out, I talk about this concept of sumud. The Kairos document talks about sumud as a sign of hope, the belief in the justice of our cause. And I write in the book about the prophet Habakkuk. And I believe in his prophecy, he resembled and embodied this sumud, this steadfastness. In his pain and anguish, Habakkuk refused to surrender to despair. And in the conclusion of the small book, which can be characterized or is characterized by his lament and even questioning of God, he declared in defiance, and this is from Habakkuk 3:17, though the fig tree does not blossom and no fruit is on the vines, though the produce of the olive fails and the fields yield no food, though the flock is cut off from the fold and there is no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will exult in the God of my salvation. God the Lord is my strength, he makes my feet like the feet of a deer and makes me tread upon the heights. I see this as a statement of sumud. And I can actually imagine the pain in uttering such a statement in a time of despair, destruction. But in such times, he chose to speak this affirmation contrary to his feelings and his perceptions of reality. This is, in fact, a declaration of commitment to pursue God as one's only source of hope. And today, we look around us, all politicians have failed us. So we turn to God. Lama spoke about the widow, and this is a story that I've used so much in my ministry in the last few months. And I love that story. Thank you, Lama, for bringing it, because it reminds us, yes, it's our persistence on justice that will bring. So will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? So even prayer in times like this is an act of sumud, is an act of defiance, because we insist on justice and we will work on justice. When we pray for something, we will go out and work for it. And so today, we will continue to remind ourselves that our steadfastness is anchored in our just cause and in our historical rootedness in this land. As Palestinian Christians, we will continue to find courage and consolation in the God who dwells with those of contrite and humbled spirit. That's why, to me, the image of Christ in the rubble is first and foremost an image of defiance. God is in solidarity with the oppressed. God is close to those who suffer. And one of the things I love about that image of Christ in the rubble is that that very same Jesus who escaped a massacre, was crushed, almost crushed as a child, survived, recovered, and faced death and stared death in its face and brought victory to all of us. I see in Jesus an image of someone who has steadfastness, who refused to give in, who defeated the worst enemy of all, death. And in him, we can be inspired as Palestinians. We might find ourselves right now crushed, displaced, with no source of hope. But we look at Jesus, he was in our state, he survived, and he brought victory. To me, this is a message that, although it sounds naive sometimes, I will continue to preach. In times when everyone fails us, we can still fight and keep the faith, and faith will help us endure and survive. Steadfastness as saying no to the empire. Steadfastness as insisting on believing in God against all odds. Thank you.